Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is co-founder of The Gaggle, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, Peter, you know what this is. Today is Sunday, and that means that the fate of the world will be decided. And I've heard that many people are trembling what the judgment of the day will be. So. Yes. So I'll go first, because it's thumbs up and thumbs down time. And my big, of course, thumbs down is the ludicrous coverage of the activities of the border patrol agents. Yeah, well, there's plenty to talk about, particularly the disgusting way in which President Biden was attacking all people, but Biden is, after all, their boss. He, they're working for him. He's the head of the federal government, and these are people, lowly people, poor. They're not wealthy people. They are attempting to enforce the law at the border. They're protecting the border, and they were doing it on horseback, which is what you do there. I mean, you're on horseback, but the ridiculous coverage in which, first of all, they were talking about whips. Deliberately, confusing whips with reins. And then there were, all these insane hyperbole about this was like slavery. Like Maxine Waters talked about slavery. So people actually trying to get into the United States illegally is likened to slavery, which supposedly people want to try and get out of. So it was absolutely ridiculous. But worst of all, I think, was Biden, who really started attacking people without even waiting for some form of a formal investigation, and essentially attacking the people who were doing the job that they had been assigned to do. So it was a really, really disgusting activity, and a big thumbs down this week.
And the freelance journalist that took the photograph even said it's not a whip. Okay, so even go to the source. But of course, that doesn't stop these lunatics in the media to keep driving ahead. And of course, what it basically is that we don't need anyone enforcing the border, because these people are inherently racist. They're mostly Hispanic, but anyway, so get rid of them too. As Glenn Greenwald says, why do they always blame the animal?
That's right. Exactly. That's right.
Are they going to ban horses at in stadiums during sports events for crowd control? Are they going to ban them too there?
Exactly.
Oh,
good point. Yeah.
I didn't know horses were racist. We learned so much with this book ideology.
That's right. And of course, they're also trying to protect the migrants from the horses. I mean, horses, they're big, strong animals. You get kicked by a horse, you're done. So, they was essentially taking actions in order to prevent the migrants.
What they do with the rein is that they're getting the attention of the horse away from a potential accident.
Exactly. Yeah.
Even I know that.
Of course, exactly. Me too, exactly. And I'm no horse rider.
No equestrian here. All right. I'm not gonna. I don't expect you to have much reaction to this one, because I don't think you watch it. But over the last few months, Greg Gutfeld over at Fox, he has a late night program to compete with whatever their names are. I don't watch them, and he's number one. I mean, he really pulls a lot of viewers now. And I watch the program, not religiously, but I watch it from time to time. It's not particularly funny, okay? During the course of 1 hour, maybe 2 or 3 laughs, okay? But why is it number one? And now we've been thinking about it. Well, when you have these other clowns, they don't criticize or attack power. They cover for power. And that's not funny, okay? Inherently, I mean, how long are they going to tell Trump jokes, okay? How long, all right? But what Gutfeld does, he goes after all of their sacred cows. Right. And it's not because, like I said, I don't think it's a particularly funny program, but you have this release. It's like, why don't you say something about those people? Okay. And I think that's the secret to his success. He's not particularly funny. There's some one-liners that yes are really very good, but what he's doing is his range is so much more robust than these other guys.
Right. No, I think
these other guys have to be very careful in what they have to say. Gutfeld doesn't have to be careful at all. The world is his oyster.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's an excellent point. First of all, humor, particularly if you're going to do political humor, has to be punching up. You have to be attacking the people in power. And therefore, I mean, if you think back, I mean, this is obviously going back a long way, but when in the heyday of the satirical comedy at the BBC, which was in the 1960s, TW3 and so on, they were always attacking all politicians. They were attacking the Labour government, they were attacking the Tory opposition, and that way it was funny. I mean, it's political satire, but you're attacking everybody. If you're only attacking one side, then it comes across very soon as phony. And that really you have a political agenda. You're not really interested in humor. You're here to promote an agenda, and then people turn off. And I think that's what's happened with this late night comedy. I mean, they have their fans, but they're all essentially Democrat supporters. And you're right about how long are they going to do Trump jokes? But I remember back after Obama won the election, all of those comedians, particularly David Letterman, who's supposedly so edgy, he's got edgy humor, the hip crowd really, Letterman. He was just doing George W. Bush, Dick Cheney jokes, year after year. We're already into Obama's second term, and we're still doing George W. Bush jokes. And that is just phony. I mean, it's weak. It isn't really comedy. And particularly, and this goes other thing, is the punching down when you're attacking weaker people. These are multimillionaire comedians, and they're making fun of supposedly dumb, uneducated hicks in Middle America. That is really creepy, and there's a lot of that in late night comedy.
Well, what Gutfeld has stumbled onto, he may not even be aware of it, but he stumbled onto the secret of Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin only criticized power, and as a matter of fact, J. Edgar Hoover did not like that at all. And he had, and Charlie Chaplin was watched very carefully by the FBI until he finally left the country and went to Switzerland. But you're absolutely right. Again, you hit the nail on the head. The left, they punched down, and the conservatives, because of the situation that we're in, they have this golden opportunity to punch up, and people love it. Okay, and again, to Gutfeld's advantage, the sheer, unmitigated, unadulterated hypocrisy that is poured out on the airwaves. It's so easy. It's not. There's nothing precision here. I mean, you can take anything. Anything.
I know. I absolutely. You can take anything. I mean, and that's the thing. When it comes to like media criticism or any political criticism. You can take the position of the left, you can take the position of the right, but there is just so much to make fun of. I mean, you can make fun of Biden, make fun of Kevin McCarthy, make fun of AOC, make fun of Mitch McConnell, make fun of Trump, whatever. There's just a lot of material. But when you don't do that, and instead you're just always focusing on Trump and his supporters, then it's just really is not funny, and really is nothing to do with comedy. It's just you're driving an agenda.
As our really good friend Dima Babic said, because I asked him, what was it like living in the late Soviet Union, and he said, we just enjoyed the absurdity of it all, and that's where we are now in the West, particularly the United States. The absurdity of it all. You're right.
So my next thumbs down is now, during this time when the United States was letting in people at the southern border without COVID tests, without vaccination cards, it's not that well known. Nobody from the UK or the European Union was allowed into the country. I mean, there was basically a ban on them coming into the country, and only now, starting in November, are they going to allow people coming in from the UK and the EU, but only after they can prove that they've had 2 jabs and a negative test. 2 jabs isn't going to do it. You have to also have a negative test taken within the 72 hours before coming in. So that's, your attitude towards the Europe. And meanwhile, people just streaming across the border, without anything.
So I guess it's white people that carry it.
It does look like it. The virus is
look like that.
The virus is definitely, it doesn't like white people. I mean, I think it just attacks white people.
At risk of getting into hot water here, when you can look at the conditions on the southern border and what we saw over the last week in particular, hygiene. Okay, so I mean, I don't think you have that low level of hygiene in.
I don't think so either.
I'm going to be attacked. Oh, you dirty immigrant.
Right. Yeah,
I don't know. Anyone that wants to mention it, it's called a pandemic. Okay, so you don't go back to your sacred cows and all your stereotypes. Okay,
right.
Don't do it. Okay,
right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. I mean, the minimum that you expect from your border control, is you don't bring in people who carrying contagious diseases. I mean, that's a kind of that's
Ellis Island, George. I mean, not all of the immigration from the 1860s to 1920s was recorded. Okay, there were certain points where it was heavily recorded. Ellis Island was one of them. 1/3 of people trying to immigrate to the United States were turned back because they were sick.
That's right. Yeah. No, that's it.
Good point. I mean, the way the liberal media ties itself into knots. I mean, this is just, I can't see how any rational person that can nod their head and say, yeah, I mean, we have airport controls, everybody has certificates, jabs and all that. And then you have the hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
How you can get your head around that, I don't know. I certainly can't. Okay, I'm up. The January 6th videos. Wow, George, a tough crowd, huh?
Tough crowd, yes.
No wonder the DOJ didn't want anybody to see those tapes. Okay?
Right.
They were tourists raucous, some of them, yes, raucous, taking selfies for social media. They wanted to show the world what they were doing. And the DOJ doesn't want them to show the world what they're doing. Okay. Right. Again, this whole mantra is it really sickens me here because like Russiagate, there's no story here. However, there was some footage, and we need more clarification of people dressed in black.
I was going to mention that. Yeah, they didn't look like Trump supporters. That's
had a muscular looking.
That's right, and they were very effective. The way they moved in, almost like they'd had some kind of professional training. So they didn't look like your Trump supporters with your MAGA hats. This was a very different group of people.
It looked. I'm sorry. It looks like commandos to me.
Exactly. That's what they look like to me. Absolutely.
And certainly, again, as you put it, they had some training. People aren't born that way, folks. No. You learn to do that.
That's right. Exactly. That's right.
The way you're born to do things is like the MAGA supporters that wandered the Capitol. That's what it looks like. Okay.
Right.
And the thing what was most interesting to me is these people with their phones and they're looking around and their eyes are like this big. It's like, I'm actually here.
That's it.
Did you see the malintent in their eyes and their gestures? I didn't. Maybe I need to see more film. Okay.
Yeah. That's an excellent point. And the interesting thing is that the media continually use words like insurrection, always use insurrection, not in quotes, but insurrection to describe what happened in January the 6th, even though no one has been charged with insurrection. They use the word sedition, again, not without any quotes, sedition. And then when you look at them, the insurrectionists, the seditionists, they're wandering around, hey, wow, I mean, I'm in the Capitol, first time I've ever been here. And so
the people's house.
Yeah, the people's house. And they kind of in awe of it. They didn't look like they were storming the Capitol, wanting to, seize power and said, "That's it, we're now in charge."
Well, when you saw them kind of walking out, I don't think they wanted to seize anything. I think they wanted to go out and pound some beers. That's what I think.
I think so too. That's right. No, I think it's right. And I think following on from that, my I guess it's a vague thumb. I'm not quite sure yet whether it's a thumbs up or a thumbs down. The New York Times story yesterday, which said that there was somebody, a Proud Boys, who was an FBI informant and who was in continual contact with his FBI controller. Now, of course, the New York Times, as is its wont, wanted to make little of this. Oh, well, it may, not a very important person. Just like the New York Times before the Sussman indictment came down, this is damage control, because this, there's probably more information about to come out about the extent of the FBI involvement in January the 6th. So therefore, you already have, okay, there was this person, he was in constant contact throughout January the 6th with his FBI handler. He had been recruited by the FBI in June of 2020. So yet he shows up here with his FBI handler in tow. So in other words, we're getting more and more of a sense of the FBI involvement in the events of January the 6th. I think the New York Times is doing damage control here. I mean, that's why it admits it, but immediately wants to belittle its significance.
My gut tells me is there's going to be a lot more stories like that to kind of cut through the hundreds. They're going to have their demonized 12. Okay, that's what I think they're going to do. Right. So they're going to cut the chaff out, and they're going to focus on a small group of people here, and that's when they're going to continue to use insurrection and treason and all of this. I think they're really embarrassed by their dragnet, and I think they want to start clearing the docket, okay, for the real show, because the real show is still on the agenda. So
no, they have to. I mean, this is clearly their big deal. And I mean, again, now you've got the Benny Thompson's kind of January the 6th committee hearings, and so there's we want to subpoena Bannon. We want to subpoena, I don't know, Peter Navarro or whatever. I notice you're not subpoenaing the FBI because they seem to be a very key player. Because you remember when it was Christopher Wray was testifying before the Senate, and then Amy Klobuchar, in a kind of fairly, she's not the brightest bulb in the world. She asked Wray a question about well, how much did the FBI know about the events, and Wray absolutely ducked the question. I mean, that was very striking that, she just asked this question thinking that, oh, he's just going to knock it out of the park. Ray ducked it. He immediately started, went into a segue about, we need to know about these things, to avoid them in the future. You didn't answer the question. How much did the FBI know about this ahead of time? So, yeah. So why doesn't Benny Thompson get Ray and the FBI top brass before that committee if they really want to get to the bottom of what happened?
What does Christopher Wray know about anything? Why does he have his job?
I know, isn't that amazing?
He's like the FBI receptionist, isn't he? That's all he is. You had that gymnastics scandal here. Oh, these were my people. He acted like he didn't know what was going on. Are you running the agency yourself? Yeah, he's a receptionist. He's taking calls. That's it.
But I think it's like Comey. I mean, whenever Comey did these interviews, you notice his first response to any question, I don't know. That's a good question. I didn't know about this. That's it's the go-to response, I think, by people in Washington. They never really know anything. I mean, it's like, I saw it on CNN. So gee, I don't have any independent sources of information. I read the New York Times and I get it from the New York Times. Who me?
From my lips to God's ear. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's how you play the Washington game. I mean, remember, Comey was even after he published his book and he went on Fox News, he was still peddling the story that the Christopher Wray had been hired by the Republican, not Christopher Wray, Christopher Steele. Christopher Steele, the dossier had been, it was the Republicans who had paid for this dossier. All rubbish that everyone had already known a long time.
Well, I mean, during the early primary season, yes, there was opposition.
Right, but that was not the Steele; it was the Fusion GPS. Right, but the Steele dossier part came later, and that was all Hillary Clinton. Yeah, but he was deliberately confusing this. I mean, deliberately.
There was Brett Baer. I remember it very, very carefully. He didn't make any sense as usual. You know why, George? Because he's a pathological liar. That's
it. That's it. Yeah, and a professor. He's now a university professor.
Okay, right with Biden's wife. Okay.
That's it. Exactly.
Dr. Comey, okay, Jimbo, as we call him, from New York. Remember, Lordy, Lordy. I mean, this is a guy from New York. Who says that? Lordy. I mean, all of a sudden you're from like Memphis or something? Come on. What a scam artist, okay? At least when Trump went to the South, he still wore his suit and his tie. He never changed his accent.
Well, I mean,
carry around Tabasco sauce in his.
That's it. And Barack Obama was always doing that. As soon as he went before any kind of a Southern black audience, he would suddenly start sounding like a black preacher, like a Baptist black preacher. Normally, he's talking in a very normal way, and suddenly he's doing that whole sing-song way of talking. Hillary Clinton was always doing that. That's that.
And then when Trump went to a black church and they were singing the what is it? Black. What do they call them? Black. What kind of music do they call that?
Soul.
Well, it was like soul music, but it's like religious music. So he's there. He's trying. Oh, he's trying to dance. Okay, but he can't. Okay, again, perfectly authentic guy.
Exactly. No, that's it.
People mocked it, but I just say that's real.
That's it. Yeah, he doesn't want to be a hip guy. He does this little bit of thing, and that's it. I'm no hipster. Like Obama.
Gospel music is what I'm trying to.
Gospel, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
All right. This will be a short one because it's so obvious. Thumbs down. Jen Psaki needs psychological help. Okay. I mean, I think what we need to do is we need Google Translation to understand her because it's getting more and more opaque. Okay. It's getting more and more opaque. There's no substance to what she says at all. This White House is completely shut off. Okay. I mean, when Boris Johnson said, why don't we take some questions?
Right, yes. He didn't clear it with us. He has to clear it with you that he's going to take some questions from the British press.
What you need to do is, every White House, I'm not going to go partisan here, but the trick is to control the narrative, okay? And they think they're so smart that they outdo themselves. They lose the narrative and you know what? It's this media. They're getting more and more embarrassed that they back this guy. Okay, they're really embarrassed by it, and it started with the Afghanistan thing, and it's only gotten worse. Okay, and then Joe comes out and criticizes the guys on horseback, but it's your administration.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, when you start throwing your own people under the bus, you're in trouble, okay? Yeah. Because I can tell you, the average person in the Midwest can understand that guy on the horse more than they can understand any talking head in the White House, okay? Yeah. You're insulting people, you're dividing people at such a horrific rate. Yeah. I mean, I've never seen such bad communication control in my life. And then you have this Mayorkas guy come out. And this guy, I mean, did he go to university at all? I mean, is that any kind of education? I mean, answer the question. It's your job. How many people have come in from the border from Haiti? It's your job to know that.
That's right. Yeah. No, exactly. I think that's what Senator Ron Johnson said to him. I mean, you're coming before us. This is a Senate committee, and you don't have the answers. Most basic questions. This is going to be the first question you were asked. Give us the numbers. I said, well, I don't actually have any numbers. Why don't you have any numbers? Well, we're all very busy. I just don't have any numbers.
18 hours a day. Well, if you work 18 hours a day, why don't you have the answers? That's a lot of time.
Exactly. And when you're coming out to testify before the Senate, you are expected to come up with numbers because it's their job to ask you about the numbers. That's exactly right. But I think Biden's, again, it goes back to what we were talking about before. His attack on his own people, the people who are enforcing federal law, is really of a piece with his constant attacks on the American people. I mean, I think people who don't support him. I mean, it's like when his speech at Tulsa, his attack on the unvaccinated. This is a person who is deeply divisive and is constantly attacking those who are not his supporters. Trump never did that. They all call Trump divisive, but Trump never attacked people who didn't support him.
I shouldn't be giving out advice, particularly since I'm not paid for it. But wouldn't this be the quintessential moment for Biden to stand above it and say, and trying to reach out? I mean, he could be saying, look, there are people in my administration, they're following this and this, but the buck stops here, and he could reach out, but he doesn't. He constantly goes, Joe Biden is not a radical, you guys. He's an old segregationist. That's what he is. He's a corrupt politician who's been around for, since the 1860s. This is not the Joe of his normative life. This is somebody else, okay? And it shows someone that's completely out of touch, okay? The equity, woke, he doesn't even know what these words mean.
No. Well, that was the thing. I mean, Biden, he's always been an empty suit. I mean, so when he first emerged in the 70s, I mean, he came along. I mean, he was anti-war on Vietnam. Then when busing became a big issue in the Northeast in the 70s, he thought basically the Democrats were going to be wiped out because busing was very unpopular in the Northeast, very controversial issue. He was against busing. And then, in the 80s, when kind of neoconservatism and Reaganism was coming to the fore, he was the neocon Democrat. He was always for interventionism, except for the first Iraq War, because the party leaders didn't want to support George H.W. Bush. This is a person who's never had an original thought in his life. He's always just followed the wind, whatever the party leaders tell him to do. And he's kind of been thrust. He's the accidental president. Barack Obama decided that he was the one who could win the election, and he was pushed forward to that position.
Courage is not in his vocabulary, George. He's a follower, not a leader.
Exactly. That's it. So my next thumbs down is Boris Johnson's inane address before the General Assembly. All of it was about green. How we have to be green. That was his. Yeah, exactly. He's supposed to be a conservative. He's supposed to be this populist. Remember, he's always described as a populist for some reason. The media, they always, this is the way the media operate. They always get this kind of this word that they stick to a politician, and it's always there. Populist. Boris Johnson. He's nothing of the sort. So when you think of all of the problems that Britain faces, all of the economic problems, all of its serious problems with its conflicts with France, and not to mention its conflicts with Russia, all of that, and all he can talk about is green. How he wants to be, the importance of the whole world has got to embrace green. We've got to really take this seriously. It was just kind of a bizarre, absolutely bizarre performance.
What's interesting for me, and the reason there may be a reason for that, because like Joe Biden, he's sniffing around for political wins, and the establishment likes this. This is a nice way to capture power, to control the narrative, and he wants Britain to be the center of that, because Britain isn't the center of anything anymore.
No, I think that's right.
But he wants this to be their issue. Okay. And he wants to be out front on it. Okay. I mean, he's a showman. He's being he's a salesman for this I was going to say ideology. It's not. It's a show. Okay. So I think that's what he's just trying to find a niche for himself.
I agree. It's
kind of like to go with crazy clothes.
That's it. I agree. I think that's he sort of thinks this is the coming thing, and I'm going to be ahead of everyone on this coming thing. So so now he was one of the first to start repeating that Biden mantra, "Build Back Better." And then when he was at the G7, he was a "Build Back Greener," and then "Build Back More Feminine." He's got all of the cliches, all of the buzzwords.
And he's got his eye, and we've seen this repeatedly in our lifetime, particularly in the last 25, 30 years, is that he's eyeing a very lucrative position after he leaves Downing Street.
Absolutely.
And he wants to do that. He's going to be the guy.
Absolutely.
He saw what that schmuck named Tony Blair did. Oh, hey, man, I'll go to the bank too. Okay.
I couldn't agree more. Exactly. I have to say, France is now a very refreshing contrast to Britain. Macron doesn't talk like that. Macron is much more of a solid
He's
player.
actually maturing in power.
Yeah. I mean, he really hasn't doing nothing to embrace the woke culture. When in 2020 he said no one is taking down any statues in France. That's it. He just ruled out no one. Johnson didn't say that. Johnson didn't have the courage to say no one's taking down any statues. In fact, he was even mealy-mouthed over when they tried to deface the Churchill statue. Even then he was, Churchill was a man of his time and so on.
He put a box. He put it in the box.
Yeah, exactly. Say what you like about Churchill. He was a great leader. What is this mealy mouth? I mean, it's a disgrace, absolute disgrace that anyone tried to deface him. So France is definitely, now, kind of a segue, there's been these, a whole bunch of doctors and professors and scientists have now written a big open statement against transgender ideology. And they said that we don't want this in France, the idea that children can just simply approve, by themselves, they can make this sort of take puberty blockers and so on. So this is a statement, important statement from a whole bunch of French, as I say, scientists, academics, and so on. So again, very refreshing. You don't get this kind of stuff in Britain or in the United States.
Well, no, I mean, what you'll get from Boris Johnson is green transgenderism.
That's it.
Leave it at that. Okay. Yeah. Again, a difficult one for thumbs up or thumbs down. You and I have talked about Biden's polling numbers, and we have a gaggle rule here, is that, you have to minus at least 10%, sometimes shave off 5. So if Biden is in the low 40s, he's actually in the mid 30s. Okay. And I think, again, it's because these polling agencies are inherently biased to the left, and they don't want to completely show their buyer's remorse. Okay, right. So he's in really big trouble. And so when you have friendly pollsters say he's in trouble, it means he's really in trouble. Okay. Right. And of course, George and I have been looking at the polling numbers for independents, which is the key. That's the key.
Exactly. Yeah, because they are the sort of the avatar of where the nation is. Of course, 90% of Democrats will support Biden. 90% of Republicans are opposed to Biden. That doesn't mean anything. It's what the independents are thinking. That's the key. And yeah, this is very serious, because remember, this is only 8 months into his presidency. So that's a huge fall for him. So he really is underwater. And it's not at all clear how he can get himself out of it, because this is not a person who can inspire leadership. He can't come along and make some important speech and change the equation. He just doesn't have it.
And this spending bill, and again, you heard it here. Right. Okay. It's in big trouble right now, really big trouble right now. But even if they eke something out and it's more watered down, it's not going to pump his polling numbers. Okay. It doesn't work that way. Those are not things people say, oh, you wake up in the morning, I'm glad Joe Biden is president. It doesn't work that way. Okay? And on top of it, he has shown zero leadership.
Right.
Which is the irony, of course, is with Obamacare, who was the point man?
Right.
It was Biden.
Right.
I mean, he was supposed to know how to work everybody, backslap, get in the middle of everything. Right. He's not even doing that in his own administration.
Yes.
And if I have another one here, I'm going to just throw it in with this one here. I think it was Rasmussen that came out that Trump is more popular than Biden.
That's right. It was a head-to-head election with 50-51 Trump, 41 Biden. Huge. And it was even bigger with Trump versus Harris. So that is a huge thing. I mean, it is a remarkable reversal, because when you think of January the 20th, kind of Trump leaves, by the back door. He was not in very good odor. I remember, at the time, many people were speculating. I mean, we had, people on Crosstalk were saying Trump probably won't run again, because, this whole thing has been a very painful ending to his administration. Now he's kind of, he attends these huge rallies. He's a very much a major figure. I mean, you had Bob Woodward the other day on CNN, who said, which we have said and others have said, even if you take everything on face value in the 2020 election, 45,000 votes Trump takes Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, Trump is elected president, and Woodward has said it is an almost certainty that Trump will run in 2024. That's a measure of just how quickly things have reversed in the United States.
It may be prescient because you remember, of course, the Jim Acostas and all those other idiots talking about, a president going into exile.
Right.
Well, it's prescient, in my opinion, now as we speak, 8 months in, is that Trump didn't want to legitimize the photo op. Okay.
Right.
So he's clean of it. He's clean of it. Okay. He has no connection to it. He didn't have a sit down or anything like that. Right. He's clean of it. And that prescient, maybe, okay? Because I think people look at it a different way. I mean, because now it's like, you had nothing to do with those folks. Right. You were right. Okay.
Right. Yeah. That's right. And people can quibble about this or that. Oh well, what about Trump's policy on Afghanistan and whatever. Biden owns it. Whatever happened in Afghanistan, Biden owns it. It's under his watch. He takes the responsibility. It doesn't matter what Trump was doing. You have to take the responsibility. You were president.
Same thing at the border. It's your border.
Right. Yeah.
Trump's.
Right. Well, the border is a real problem for him because there's just no question that Trump had actually brought, after so many years, he brought some kind of order to the border, and he had pursued a sensible enough policy, the stay in Mexico policy, giving money to Central American states to encourage them to keep everyone there, that they have to make their asylum requests in Central America. They don't make it at the border. So his policies were quite successful. I mean, that was, you have to say that would be, Trump's most successful policy of what he had done at the border. And and Biden just tossed it all away. So it's
I don't know. I think you're up. Yeah,
I think I'm up. Yeah. So the next, I guess this is a thumbs up. It's a minor sort of thumbs up. I love the way Al Sharpton was treated in Texas. He came there with his usual demagogic way, thinking he's still in the Bronx or in Harlem. He's going to come along, do his shtick, and everyone will be shaking their fists, in rage. It didn't happen that way. So, he held a press conference and people started heckling him and saying, we don't want all this crap here. We don't want all your racist rubbish here. And he had to call his press conference to an end. I mean, he had to just swiftly depart. He got it wrong. He didn't realize, that he was a notorious person, and Texas is not, New York. He's been getting a free ride for his nonsense ever since the 1980s. A racial arsonist. He really was a racial, literally in some cases. Made a very lucrative career out of it. But while he usually has this very cosseted audience, he has a show on MSNBC. He used to come in regularly at the Obama White House. He didn't quite grasp that the rest of the country doesn't quite take to him as the rich and powerful do.
Real politics is when you go to the people. That's where politics happens.
Right,
okay.
Right.
And he met it. Okay, head on.
Yeah.
And it shows when you live in this ideological bubble that when no one disagrees with you, everyone is, the only diversity you have is that you have a diversity of color of skin, but not a diversity of thought. Okay. Right. And that's that trick they're playing. It is insidious trick.
That's
okay.
Right.
Look at our diversity. Where's your diversity of ideas?
That's right. No, none at all. And of course, you have to say, Sharpton, has always done what the powerful people wanted him to do. They want to, essentially pit whites against blacks. They want to pit men against women. That's all they're great. What does Jeff Bezos want? He wants, his employees, instead of, taking the issue up with management as to the horrible working conditions. No, let's make it all about whites versus blacks. No, let's make it all about men versus women. Great. Then, you just get, everyone leaves you alone. It's this disgusting trick that corporations have been playing for years, setting whites and blacks against one another. Sharpton is a key player in all of this.
So when an Amazon factory locations or distribution area blacks and whites equally can piss into bottles during their shift.
Exactly.
There's equity for
That's
you.
it. Yeah, exactly. That's right. And
he probably sells them those bottles to his own.
Yeah, he sells them. Exactly. Got to pay for that. Yeah, Sharpton has always been, a part and parcel of that, and he has been handsomely rewarded. I mean, he gets a lot of money for these for these gigs at MSNBC. So it's very nice. They love these racial arsonists.
Yeah. Okay. Sandy Cortez and the Iron Dome.
Iron Dome. Yeah.
I really hope finally everyone sees what kind of fraud she is. Okay. I mean, she votes present on voting on a bill that is giving Israel the Iron Dome for free when Israel is an affluent country. It can pay for its own defense. Giving over $3 billion a year to a country that has health care for its employees, but Americans don't have it. Okay. Voting present when you criticized Tulsi Gabbard for voting present during the second, the second impeachment. The first impeachment.
The first impeachment, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, Sandy, the jig is up, okay? You probably have a lot of friends over at Instagram. I'm sure they can make a position for you. You're more suited for social media, and you're good at it. I give you that. But as a politician, you're the worst.
That's right.
You're the worst. And your 4-page explanation, what language is that in? I know that they were English words, but they didn't make any sense at all. I encourage everyone to read a couple paragraphs of it. What an embarrassment for the U.S. Congress. And that is saying something, George.
I couldn't agree more. It was also one of my thumbs down. But that 4-page statement was quite extraordinary.
Our community. What are you talking about?
That's right. It was all kind of gibberish, but the thrust of it was that she started attacking her own party leaders because they brought it to the vote. But why then did she vote present? I mean, it's not like it was going to go. There was any chance that they would be voted down or anything like that. It was passed overwhelmingly, 420 versus 9 or something like that. So she could easily have voted among the 9, but no, because Pelosi told her that would be unacceptable. She did what Pelosi told her to do. Wow, she's a real edgy kind of politician. Pelosi took you aside and said, you will not vote against this. Yes, ma'am. And there she was. And now she's trying to spin this out with a whole bunch of gobbledygook. And she's always done this gobbledygook. I mean, I mean, remember when there was some people were she got the Texas I don't know, maybe Texas Rangers against somebody or other who was she thought was harassing her on Twitter, and then they came and knocked on the door of someone. Well, I didn't really have anything to do with that, blah blah blah. Well, for some reason, they went and knocked on the person's door because they thought it was harassing her online.
And he retweeted something.
That's it. Yeah, the retweet, exactly. So, and then because I think what he retweeted was again a kind of gobbledygook explanation. Somebody had asked her about Israel and Palestine, and gave gibberish, absolutely, literally gibberish. I mean, just nothing actually made any sense. And I think that was the retweet that, this is what AOC is about. Can you make head or tail of this gibberish?
Sandy, do you have any learning curve? You got in trouble the first days in Congress, and you were asked this on, I think it was PBS, and it's complicated. Okay. I mean, if you say it's complicated, you must know something about it.
Right.
Okay.
That's right. Yeah. And every time when Max Blumenthal confronted her and say, "Well, are you supporting Trump's policy or against Maduro?" Well, it's very troubling. We really need to look into that. We're definitely gonna have our eyes on that. And then she quickly darted away. I mean,
everybody, you see how fraudulent she is and how the whole process is. I saw the video clip of Pelosi talking with Sandy Cortez, and if I could read lips, I think she was saying, no more covers on Vanity Fair, no more Time magazine. Okay, no. I mean, you see, people like Hannity always say AOC, Speaker of the House, all but a name and all. Right. No, Sean, you're completely wrong.
I agree.
No, AOC is a prop for Pelosi. Okay, right. It's all a show. Come on, it's just a show.
Of course it is. Of course it is. They use AOC to get the young people into the party, but I don't think that's going to work for much longer, because I think the young radicals, presumably now coming of age, they already see what a fraud she is. They look at that dress that she wore at the that costume ball with that ridiculous tax the rich, across her backside. They don't see her as the leader of any radical movement. So, I think she's going to become less and less valuable to Pelosi and the party leaders. So and that's going to be the end of her.
And to finish off on this, I think now there's about a dozen of what they claim to be real progressives. It was a 50-50 split. I mean, Sandy Cortez voted present, and then they were the other part. They broke into two parts when one voted for and one voted against. So the small group of people, they have the keys to power, and they repeatedly, every step of the way, surrender.
Well, they surrendered because their job is to shepherd in the young radical. Well, that's their role. They want to be, hey, I'm a radical. I'm not taking any crap from the party leaders. That's how they build themselves. That's how they run. If somebody tries to muscle me, I'm going to be standing up. Look. To be honest, I mean, I know Bernie Sanders has this huge fan club. Sanders' role was always that as well. He's going to be, I'm a socialist, I want socialism. And then, people get enthusiastic. Yeah, Bernie, I'm with you. And then everybody vote for the Democrat. So after getting all these people excited, everybody vote for Hillary Clinton. Everybody support Biden. That was his role. It's the way to shepherd in all of the, the would-be radicals who want change.
To keep the coalition together, okay? Right. It's all kabuki theater, folks, okay? It is. And they're good at it, okay?
Very, yeah, I agree, very good.
Okay, I think
all right, so
for me.
My next thumbs down is, I have to say, I'm no fan of Chris Cuomo, and I'm no fan of Andrew Cuomo, but I have to say, the attacks that have come against both of them have been so ineffectual that I get, felt sympathy for them. I thought the case against Andrew Cuomo from those women complainants was extraordinarily feeble. They really didn't seem to me to present even remotely a case of sexual harassment. I mean, we kind of have a sense of what is sexual harassment. It doesn't sound like sexual harassment. Maybe he was behaving in a too friendly way, at a party or whatever, or talk in a smutty way or whatever. It's not sexual harassment. So the case against Andrew Cuomo was ridiculous, and the fact that he ended his political career was even more ridiculous. But now some woman who was Chris
2005,
yeah, it was like 15, 16 years ago. She was his boss. I mean, she kept saying he was his boss. I mean, she was just a producer of his show on ABC. And apparently at a party, he kind of, let his hands wander, southward. And she's, basically, and he evidently realized that he had done something wrong. Next day he emailed her, apologized for his boorish behavior. And that would have been the end of it. But now she's written this op-ed, a long op-ed in the New York Times, attacking Chris Cuomo and saying, well, I don't want him to lose his job. But of course, no. So you're writing this, but you don't want him to lose his job. But, look, it happened. It was 16 years ago. He apologized. I mean, if you really thought this was so outrageous, then you could have tried to do something about it then. Why are you bringing this up now? So, again, I'm no fan of Chris Cuomo, but I have to have some sympathy for him in this case.
Yeah, and it completely devalues what the Me Too movement was supposed to mean in the first place. Okay, it's just turned into a partisan thing. If you're in one party, you're accused of it. Another, you get a pass, and then it goes back. It's interesting for me. It kind of goes full circle because originally the argument, oh, they're just attacking me because of my money and my fame, and they want to pull me down. Well, it's kind of gone back to that, isn't it? Okay, and also, I mean, I have to. I look at this a little bit from a different angle. Is that I don't take glee in it, but I find it amusing to watch how they use this strategy against their own. Okay, and so what she has done, effectively 16 years later, when it seemed to been resolved, I mean, she acknowledges that she got an email and apology.
Exactly.
Right?
The next day he sent an apology. Right. Yeah.
So now Chris Cuomo can never talk about this issue again about harassment. Okay. So I mean, he can't talk about his brother. He can't talk about this now. I mean, he's a bonehead. Okay. I mean, this guy is he's one of the worst. Okay.
Yep.
But the weaponizing this it's very, very unhealthy, and it's very, very dangerous.
Right.
And what harassment is, again, it's very, very broad. Okay. So, obviously people should be treated with respect, okay? And groping women in parties, and I think her husband was there as well.
Her husband was there, yeah, that's right. But nonetheless, I mean, things happen at parties. I mean, it's not like he did it in the office. Now, the point is that, as you say, it's devalued because in the other cases, the charges were a little bit more serious. I mean, in the case of the Matt Lauer, Matt Lauer was groping in the office. I mean, he was doing that thing, letting his hands wander in the office. Matt Lauer had a kind of
he had the
automatic lock. Yeah, exactly. He could lock the door when he had these young females and so on. Clearly, he was using his power in order to get sex from employees at NBC. I think it was. So he because okay, that is. By most definitions, that would be sexual harassment. We know in the case of Harvey Weinstein, I mean, he was pretty much committing rape. I mean, it's like some of the women accused him of rape and sexual assault. So these were serious charges. But in the case of the Cuomo brothers, I mean, I don't see it. I mean, I think the case of Andrew Cuomo. I mean, this was I think it was just simply a political hit job to get him out of politics. I mean, so there was just no case there that this was sexual harassment. And this thing, Chris Cuomo, all right, this was a party, and she wasn't even working at ABC anymore. So it was, it was just boorish behavior. But to bring this up after 16 years and say, well, I don't want him to lose his job, of course. Yeah, right.
But it cheapens it all, okay? Right. And then again, going full circle, okay? What was all of this Kavanaugh stuff? What was all this for, okay? Right. And again, it comes to they start eating each other, okay? Right. And so, are you gleeful about that? Again, you and I from the very, very beginning have been very dubious about this whole strategy.
I agree.
Okay?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
I got another thumbs down. So in Minnesota, do you remember the case of that Somali-born cop years ago when he shot this Australian-American young woman? She called the police and then shot her. She did it. He did it in a particularly egregious way because he was sitting in the passenger side of the police car. She approached the driver's side of the police car and he shot right across him. So in other words, the bullet just whizzed past his partner's eyes, shot her dead. Apparently he felt threatened by this woman in a nightie. The Minnesota authorities took forever to decide before they were going to prosecute. I mean, went on months after months. He was suspended on full pay. Finally, they kind of brought a case against him and he was convicted of manslaughter as well as murder, the third-degree murder. And third-degree murder means essentially that you perform a killing, but in a way that you're actually even endangering others. And he clearly was endangering others. He was endangering his partner, most obviously. But anyway, he was convicted of that. But notably, this is Minnesota, where Derek Chauvin was also convicted of that in the George Floyd killing. But anyway, the Minnesota Supreme Court has now thrown out the third degree murder conviction, which means that all that is left as charges was the I think second degree manslaughter charge. So he's going to be sent back to the Minnesota trial court, and as things stand, he'll be out within a few months. So he'll be certainly out before the end of the year. So that's it. I mean, and now people are saying, well, yeah, but now this is, of course, Derek Chauvin will be able to appeal and say, no, I want my murder, third degree murder conviction thrown out as well, because the Supreme Court was saying, well, he really wasn't endangering anyone else. He was focused, laser-like focus on his target. So, there was no real danger to others. He was just focused on his target. Well, it was always difficult to understand how Chauvin was endangering anyone else other than Floyd, but they wanted to bung this in as well. But in any case, Chauvin will doubtless appeal this conviction, cite this Minnesota Supreme Court ruling. I don't think he's going to prevail. They're going to come up with another convoluted piece of reasoning and say, no, it doesn't apply to you. It applies to him, not to you.
There's sometimes just no words here, okay? Right. I mean, because he was a Somali immigrant, is that the reason why? I mean, I think it's a fair question, okay? I mean, when you put on the badge and you're given a gun, it doesn't matter what your skin color is or your origins. You've been trained to do a job, okay? Right. So, I mean, what about the victim's family, okay? Yeah. Jeez.
That's right. That's it. I think so.
He's killed, okay.
It was a terrible case because she was she was this public-spirited woman. She called the police because she heard some screaming from somewhere. So she came out of her house, to greet the police, presumably to explain, what she had heard. This Somali cop got frightened and shot her dead.
You're not supposed to get frightened. You're supposed to, okay. You have a gun, okay?
You have a gun, exactly.
A woman in a nightgown. Okay?
That's it.
I mean, just get your head around that. She leaves her house at night to greet the police, and she never goes home. That is that's mind-boggling.
It was such a shocking story, and the fact is, it was the Minnesota authorities that had this guy as a cop who was clearly not, there had already been disciplinary problems with him in the past, and he'd only been on the force for quite a short time, but already he'd had disciplinary problems. Obviously poorly trained. Obviously, didn't have the temperament to be a cop, but they were so eager to present, oh, we have a Somali.
We have a minority hire.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that what got him across the line because he fit a quota?
That's right. And they wanted to do
fair question to ask
because they had brought all these Somalis into Minnesota. I mean, like Ilan Omar, another one. She came from a Somali camp, and so she's actually Somali. So they wanted to show, look, we have a really integrated. We're going out of our way to integrate all our Somali immigrants. So they gave him this job on the police force, and somebody else got killed.
This is what happens when you do.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's. I mean, one other thing is that just this audit that has been done in Arizona, the media are completely misconceiving what happened, because the whole point of the audit was not to do a hand recount. It's not to say, oh, well, Biden got more votes than Trump, or Trump, whatever. That wasn't the point. The point is to say how many dubious votes there were. And they said, this is just Maricopa County. This is just one county in Arizona. They said there were more than 50,000 dubious votes. They didn't say they should have gone to Trump. They didn't say they should have gone to Biden. They said there are 50,000 votes, essentially, that should not have been counted. That was the whole point of the audit. But instead, the media is spinning it. Oh, they didn't come up with anything. Oh, no, because Biden got more votes than Trump. Deliberate, willful misinterpretation of what the audit was supposed to show.
It's all about 2022, George.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, why is the world reacting differently to this pandemic than the United States? Why? Well, I think it's because they want to pull off this ballot stunt again in 2022.
So. Definitely. I agree.
They're not going to let this go.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, everybody. Some people can rest easy.
Exactly.
But only for a week.
But only exactly, and I hope some people will think that they're now in perdition. You know, maybe they can try and improve their status. But
we're checking our list and we're checking it twice.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right, everybody, we're on local, so please go to thegaggle.locals.com. George, you're going to have a live stream up in the next couple of days.
Right. We have the live stream in the next couple of days. Also, tomorrow we have the great Richard Barris on, and so that's going to be a fascinating discussion. We've talked about polling, but we're obviously going to go into much greater detail about the.
We also have the Gaggle store up. We have some new items for winter, some hats and scarves, so please have a look at that. Buddy's all over the place, right, Bud? Okay. Also, every Friday we do a super chat on YouTube, as long as YouTube allows us. So, like I always say, watch us because it may be the last time we do it.
That's right.
Okay. We do periodically the mailbag, so keep an eye on that. And if you want to talk to George and I one-on-one, we can do that through Zoom. Check our page here. And Buddy is officially going to start a boycott if the tip jar situation is.
Yes, exactly, because I think he feels
he will not appear anymore.
That's it, and he feels that we've already appropriated his image without giving him due compensation, and now he thinks now the tip jar, based on Buddy's tip jar, and it's not being filled. He's very, very unhappy. He feels we're not doing our job. So please, whatever you can do would be most appreciated. We're very grateful for all of your help and support. The more you can help, the better the product will be. So remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. See you soon. Bye.